Okay, what did we say? If two figures are congruent, then they are what in measure? Okay, if two angles are vertical angles, then they are? Okay, if two what kind of lines? Parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then our pairs of corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, what if we have two what kind of lines? Parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then each pair of alternate interior angles is? Okay, what about the next one? Do you guys see it's just the same thing? It's parallel and congruent again? Okay. What about the same sides? Are they congruent? What are they?
Supplementary.
They're supplementary. Good. What about for the exteriors? Same side exteriors? Supplementary again. Okay, a linear pair is a pair of adjacent angles whose non-common sides are opposite rays, so they form a line. Okay, linear pairs are supplementary. If two angles form a linear pair, then they are supplementary. A pair of angles whose measures have a sum of 180 degrees. That's the definition of supplementary. Complementary is when they sum to 90. Okay, and then we know that the transitive property of congruence, if we know that A is congruent to B and B is congruent to C, then A is congruent to C. So this is just to help you organize so that your proofs and theorems and postulates and all that fun stuff, it's in one list and you don't have to look back through your entire set of notes. So you're welcome. Okay. So for these, we have to figure out what relationships would be necessary to prove that the line T is parallel to line R. So if we're trying to use angle relationships to prove lines parallel, we're using the converses. Okay? So the converses are what we use to prove that lines are parallel. Okay, so if I knew that angle 1 and angle 2 were congruent, would that help me prove anything? What about angles 3 and 4? Would that help me prove that? Okay, so which two angles would I need to be congruent? 2 and 3. Why? What kind of angles are they? Uh-huh. So if we're trying to use angle relationships to prove lines parallel, we're going to use the converse. Yes. Okay, so we could use the corresponding angles postulate converse. Everybody okay with that? Okay. What other relationship could we use? What about them? Yes. Okay, so if the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 4 is 180 degrees, then we could use the, what are these two? They're on the same side. Yes, we could use the same side exterior angles theorem converse. Yes. Okay, the question was, why did we put converse? Okay, so the same side interior or exterior, let's go to exterior since we're talking about exteriors. The same side exterior angles theorem says that if we know that the lines are parallel, then we can say that the angle pairs are supplementary. The same side exteriors are supplementary. The converse is the one that says if we know that the same side exterior angles are supplementary, we can say that the lines are parallel. So it just depends on which piece of information we are given. Have you sent it to me? Okay, I was waiting. Okay. Did we answer that question? Okay, where are we? All right, let's look at the next one. What relationships would we need in order to say that line T is parallel to line R? What about angle 5 and angle 8? Okay, and which? Yeah, yeah. Okay, what about 5 and 7? Could we use 5 and 7? Okay, what would 5 and 7 need to be? Okay, they are alternate interiors. What would they have to be to each other? Can they be different and the lines are parallel? No. Okay, what do they have to be? Okay, so if angle 5 is congruent to angle 7, then we could use the alternate interior angles theorem. What? Converse. Because we're going backwards. Okay, what about 5 and 6? Could we use 5 and 6? Yeah.
Wait, how are we going back?
Okay. If we know that these lines are parallel, then I can make all those assumptions about the angles. I know that 5 and 6 are supplementary. I know that 5 and 7 are congruent. I know that 5 and 8 are congruent because I know those lines are parallel. Okay, that's the regular postulates and theorems, right? Okay, let's say I don't know that they're parallel. Instead, I know that angle 5 and angle 7 are congruent. I know the opposite piece of information. That is enough to say that these lines are parallel because of the converse. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's just going backwards logically. Okay. I'm glad you asked again because I think it helped to see the drawing, what information we started with on the picture. I think I didn't do that before and I should have. Okay. What else could we use? I know we said the corresponding angles, but we already did that one up here. Is there one that we haven't done that we could use? Could we use 5 and 6? How could we use 5 and 6? Yeah. So if the measure of angle 5 plus the measure of angle 6 is 180 degrees, and then they're supplementary, we could use. Yep. Okay. All right, we are going to use the diagram to find x and y. So in this diagram, we're starting with the lines parallel. So are we going to need the converses? Probably not. Okay. So how can we find x? Yeah.
You could say 4x plus 22 plus 4y minus 46 equals 180.
Yeah, I could. That one, you're not wrong. It's going to be more complicated than this one.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
80.
You're not wrong, but I'm thinking about, like, if I'm going to try to solve something, I'm going to go for, like, the lower hanging fruit. So I could say that this angle here, guys, is supplementary to either this one or this one. Does everybody see it? Because these two are a linear pair and these two are same side exteriors. Thank you. Okay? And that one looks easier to me than this one. So I would say that these two have to add up to 180. So let's write that one down. I know that 5x plus, what does that say, 4y? Minus 46 has to add up to 180. Can I solve that one yet? Okay, so it doesn't make it wrong. Okay, I just leave it for when I can solve it. Okay? Because hopefully I can get my x or y and plug that in. Okay? So what other relationship can I set up? Yeah, these two have to be congruent. Why? Because they're alternate exteriors. Okay, so 4x plus 22 equals 5x. Subtract 4x from both sides, and I get x equals 22. Okay, now I know my x. Yep. What is that, 110? So 110 minus 46. It's too late in the day. I'm getting 64. Is that right? 110 minus 46? Okay, so I'm subtracting 64 from both sides. What's 180 minus 64? 180 minus 60 is 120 minus 4 is 116. So 4y equals 116. What's y? Is it 29? Is it 29? Will you guys get, I don't have a calculator up here. Will you guys get the calculators out, please? I think it's 29. All right, so our x was 22, our y was 29. We don't need to put degrees on them because the degrees is already in the picture outside of that set of parentheses. All right, what about this one? Okay, if I were to extend these parallel lines with some auxiliary lines, and then extend this transversal, you see that that's my little transversal there? What kind of angles are these two? The angles are not parallel, no. Mm-hmm. What kind of angles are they? No? Why? Okay, what is the angle relationship? Okay, go back and look at the list. I'll wait. Yep. They're corresponding. Okay, so they are congruent. Okay, So we just set them equal to each other. Do I need to do that with you guys, or we get it? Okay, it's just writing x plus 4 equals 3x minus 10. Just solving. Because they're congruent, we can say their measures are equal. So the angle relationship is that they are corresponding angles, so we can use the corresponding angles postulate. Okay, questions? Let's do some proofs. All right, guys, we have here a beautiful justification bank and statement bank. Actually, it just looks like they've given us all the statements. We're just putting in the justifications. So how in number 9, part A, how do we know that A is parallel to B? It's given. Okay, so we used him. All right, what about, how do I know that the measure of angle 4 plus the measure of angle 5 is 180? Okay. Where is that one? Okay, remember how we said that sometimes people would call same side consecutive? So this is same side, the consecutive. Okay, so it's consecutive. Interior angles theorem. That's supposed to be an F. All right, how do we know that the measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 4? Yep. All right, how do I know that the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 7 is 180 degrees? Okay, look. Close. Okay, look, I have measure of angle 2 is equal to measure of angle 4, so what got put here? I have measure of angle 5 is equal to measure of angle 7, so what got put there? Do you see it? We swapped. What's the fancy math way to say swapped? Yeah, it's the substitution property. Okay, do you guys want to try B? How do we know that the lines are parallel? Given. Okay, how do you know that angle 1 and angle 9 are congruent? Good. All right, what about, how do we know that angle 9 and angle 13 are congruent? The same thing, ditto. All right, how do you know the last thing? Okay, I agree. Good job. Okay, sweet. Can I let you try this one? The more practice you get using your own brain on this instead of just like having me do it, like the stronger your brain gets. You know what I'm saying? How are we doing? So if instead of giving us angles 1 and 3 are supplementary, what if they had given us, let's say that they gave us angles 3 and 5 are congruent. No, angles 2 and 5 are congruent. Okay, so let's say that we knew that these two are congruent. We could have done something similar and used the corresponding angles postulate converse to say that those lines are parallel. If they told us that 3 and 5 were congruent, we could have used the alternate exterior. You see what I'm saying? Like, it just depends on the piece of information that you're given. Okay? Let's do some practice. I gave you guys some proof, drag and drop proofs